as well as the partnership with this old house is a great complement to being our design, build, remodeling firm. It's a great message, and we're really proud to be a sponsor on this old house as well as NEPM.
Get your message heard on NEPM across all of our platforms. Email sponsorship@nepm.org.
You're watching New England Public Media, WGBY Springfield.
Childcare in America. For many, it's out of reach.
I don't know what we're going to do. I can't find daycare.
Often scarce and costly.
I kept saying to myself, it's got to be a better way.
A dilemma that sparked a national debate.
Access to quality, affordable childcare.
We can't have everything.
And will impact Americans for generations to come. Raising the Future, the Child Care Crisis.
Watch Raising the Future October 12th or stream at nepm.org.
Coming up, stories we're connecting you with tonight. We hear from the only former U.S. Senator currently touring as a stand-up comic.
There's a lot of ego involved. You have to be a performer. I did find that having been a performer was very helpful in when you were questioning in hearings.
Learn how the boxer known as the Greatest made an impact right here in Western Mass.
I could pretend to be Ali, you know, in the gym and in the fights. In my mind, I was him. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say things, but I would pretend I was him.
And we'll kick off Hispanic Heritage Month by exploring the work of an Afro-Cuban visual artist.
I don't like to be defined, and I define myself just as a visual artist. And then I bring everything together because I have a universe in my mind.
We'll bring you those stories and more as we explore the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. Up next on Connecting Point.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for Connecting Point. I'm 𝗖𝗿𝗍𝗄. Former U.S. Senator Al Franken is back in the comedy business with the launch of his new comedy tour, the only former U.S. Senator currently on tour. The stand-up show will be heading to 15 cities nationwide, and the first stop will be right here in Western Massachusetts at Northampton's Academy of Music. Before Franken turned to politics, he served as one of the original writers on Saturday Night Live for 15 seasons. In addition to his SNL days, Franken has received 5 Emmys, 2 Grammys, and authored 4 #1 New York Times bestsellers. I spoke with Franken to learn more about the tour and why he decided to launch it.
I always did comedy. I did it starting in grade school, and you know, I've been talking to audiences over the last few months. I've been going down to the Comedy Cellar in Greenwich Village, and you know, I've thought about this, is that every school has a stage, and every adult, the teachers, the principal, the administrative staff, the custodial staff, the lunch lady, everybody encourages kids to get on the stage. And then once you've graduated school, no one wants you to get on the stage. But I just did it all throughout school, and it's part of who I am. And yeah, I'll be doing talking about politics and satire, you know, doing it satirically. And so it's all part and parcel of who I am. It's all one aspect of who I am.
Now, speaking of you doing comedy before, you spent 15 seasons on Saturday Night Live as an original writer, and you won 5 Emmys for writing and producing, as well as 2 Grammys. You eventually went on to serve Minnesota in the Senate from 2009 to 2018. How does one go from being a comedian to a politician?
For me, it made sense. I wrote a lot of the political satire on SNL, with Jim Downey, who is conservative. So we didn't really feel during that time that it was our job to be just to do well-observed satire. And now it's really hard. I think the country is so divided. And, you know, it was odd. I mean, obviously, no comedian had been a senator before. And I had to convince the people of Minnesota that that made sense. And it was used against me by my opponents and stuff. But I think ultimately the people of Minnesota got it, obviously. And that in a way that satirists kind of see through things in a way. And I think that as I was serving, my re-election was a lot easier than I won the first time by 312 votes. The second time I won by over 200,000.
How different or how similar is life in Hollywood to life in Washington? Were there things that you learned as a comedian that helped you as a politician?
Well, I didn't live in Hollywood. I was in New York because I was doing SNL. And but I take it you're talking about show business. You know, they're both can be pretty tough worlds. They're different. But yeah, there's a lot of ego involved. You have to be a performer. I did find that having been a performer was very helpful in when you were questioning in hearings. Sometimes when you're questioning, you need a lot of nuance and you have to listen. And I found that my colleagues, even though like on Judiciary Committee, most of my colleagues, I wasn't a lawyer, not obviously, but I wasn't. And, but I listened different, I think, than my colleagues did, many of whom were prosecutors. But I think I had an advantage in the way I questioned, from both being a performer and a writer. And so I brought a lot of tools to the job that no one else had really had.
Now, you were talking about how comedy and satire is a little different nowadays with the political atmosphere. Currently, you're the host of the 𝗷𝗿𝗺𝗀𝗺 podcast, which touches on politics and public affairs. Can comedy have a role in bridging the divide we are seeing between the political parties?
I think it certainly has a role. It always has. It's had a role, done right, which is a big thing you have to underscore. Done right, it can shed a lot of light, and it's a different way of looking at things, but I think it can be a very helpful way of looking at things and cutting through stuff. Right now we're so divided, and it's I do talk in my show a little bit about you know, there are really good Americans on both sides, and it's hard to remember that. I talk about Ted Cruz not going to Cancun during that disaster. I learned a lot about Minnesotans during floods and tornadoes. And what you learn is how great people are to their neighbors. And it's hard really to not see people as people, because you see people do extraordinary things. I remember I was at a flood south of Duluth, and there was this couple about in their 60s who lost their home because it was a flood and their foundation collapsed, and these teenage kids just came to help them haul out their stuff, and it was heavy stuff, and these kids did it. These older people couldn't do it. And the couple told me, well, we didn't know what we're going to do. We have relatives in Missouri. We're thinking of moving there. But you know what? These kids, they're just amazing, and they're our community, so we're staying here. And I had no idea whether they're Republican or Democrat. I had no idea you just see that they're really good people. And I wish we could get back to that. There's a lot of people profiting from dividing people.
In a recent interview with The Republican, you mentioned that you will not rule out a return to public office. What is it that drives you to want to keep that political door open still?
I loved the job. I really did. And I think I was good at it. And it's a place where I could accomplish a lot. So I'm keeping the door open.
We lost your former Saturday Night Live colleague, Norm Macdonald, this week, who passed away at the age of 61 from cancer. What was it like working with Norm, and what will you remember most about him?
Norm was a brilliant comedian who approached things differently and all the great ones kind of approach things differently, but he approached them very differently, and was very brave in the way, and fearless, more fearless than brave. I think there's a difference. He just had a way of telling a joke, and he had a perspective that was different than anybody else's, and he really valued stand-up comedy. That's what he saw himself as. He didn't see himself as a sitcom. You know, he wasn't really, he loved stand-up. And that's partly why I'm doing this tour, is I really loved stand-up. And I've been, sort of prepping for this at a club, which is very different. But I'm going to the Comedy Cellar in Greenwich Village. That's a different thing than people coming to see me in Northampton. So I've been doing this club for months, and I'm going to see what it's like when people are paying to come to see me.
This Sunday night, Ken Burns' latest documentary, Muhammad Ali, will premiere on New England Public Media. The film explores the life and lasting legacy of the late heavyweight boxing champion. Born Cassius Clay in 1942, Ali captivated millions of fans across the world with his speed, grace, and power in the ring, and his cocky and controversial personality outside of it. Surprisingly, Ali was no stranger to Western Massachusetts, both during and after his career. Producer Dave Frazier talked with some local people in and out of the boxing world to learn more about the man known as the greatest.
On the wall at Central City Boxing and Barbell in Springfield hangs a picture of Muhammad Ali knocking out Sonny Liston in 1965. Ali trained for that fight at the Shine Inn in Chicopee.
He really revolutionized what boxing is in the ring. I mean, for a lot of years, boxing was just two guys standing in front of each other, and everything was traditional and orthodox. He came in with an unorthodox stance, would switch it up, and me as a boxing coach, when I watch him, I go, Jesus, everything he's doing is wrong, but it's working.
Born Cassius Clay in 1947, he was no stranger to Western Massachusetts, having lived on Union Street in Springfield on and off during the early 1960s, and he would meet with fellow members of the Nation of Islam. But for many, it is the sport of boxing that Ali is most known for.
He came in and he knew how to play the mental game, he knew how to play the emotional game, and when he got in there, it was not just a physical battle, it was a mental battle and it was an emotional battle. That's something that you try to see mimicked now, but it'll never be duplicated, not like he did. I mean, he did it at a time where that was unheard of.
Iceman John Scully has been a pivotal figure in the local boxing scene for more than 30 years. The Windsor, Connecticut native owns and operates Charter Oak Boxing in Hartford and recalls the impact Muhammad Ali had on his life and career as a boxer.
As a kid, I used to read, my father had these books, 3 books, Sugar Ray Robinson's book, Willie Pep's book, and Muhammad Ali's book. Ali's was by far the most interesting, and at that time Robinson and Pep were way retired, but Ali was still fighting, so we watched the fights on TV, so I was experiencing it in real time. I could pretend to be Ali, in the gym and in the fights. In my mind, I was him. I wouldn't necessarily say things, but I would pretend I was him.
In 1984, Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's syndrome. The former champion's motor skills slowly declined, and his movement and speech were limited. In spite of this, Ali remained in the public spotlight, traveling the world to make humanitarian, goodwill, and charitable appearances.
And he walked by me, and he went to the table, and he started signing, he started motioning people over. So when it was my turn to meet him and get my autograph, he got up and said, "Oh no, Joe Frazier." That's what he called me. I said, now I don't know if that was a compliment or not, because he said a lot of bad things about Joe Frazier, but it was really funny, and the whole room was laughing and everything. And
In 1990, I met him, and he was very, he couldn't even speak that loud, but the interaction was phenomenal. We shadowboxed with each other, and it showed me that in his mind, he was very clear-headed. He knew what was going on. He could express it. He just couldn't do it loudly, and he couldn't do it energetically. But from things he said to me, it was very clear that he was very, very much on the ball. So that was a good day.
In 1991, Ali visited Springfield and Agawam at the invitation of the Rocky Marciano Foundation. Paul Santinello and Tony Signoli were co-chairs of the event.
This amazing luminary, this international player, one of the most well-known people in the world, stayed to sign signatures and autographs on photographs, on Muhammad Ali dolls, on all kinds of stuff. It went on for hours. Every human being that was at 𝗍𝗍𝗃 that night, 1,500 people, they got an autograph.
One of the highlights Signoli recalls was Ali's visit to the pediatric wing at Bay State Medical Center. He was reminded of the impact that visit had just a short time ago.
A few months ago, actually, this year, the mom of one of those children was saying to Paul Santinello, "Gosh, Paul, you may not know this, but I was there the day that you brought Muhammad Ali to visit my son at Bay State Pediatric. My son never believed that Muhammad Ali had actually come to see him. We didn't have a photograph, we didn't have anything," the woman said. Paul sent her a photograph of Muhammad Ali kissing her son. That is gigantic to that family, and that's the kind of thing that we've seen everywhere. I've been to wakes and seen a photograph of an individual, Muhammad Ali, in the casket or next to the casket. I've seen it laminated still on people's refrigerators. This was Muhammad Ali. And at that time, and even still now, one of the most well-known, revered figures on the planet. And he came here to Springfield.
This week marks the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month, which is observed from September 15th to October 15th. And in celebration, Art for the Soul Gallery in Springfield will feature a new exhibit entitled Pop Geometric, The Art of Carlos Mateo. The exhibit opens Saturday, September 18th and features artwork inspired by Mateo's Afro-Cuban background and his life in the United States after moving here from Cuba in 1997. I spoke with Mateo to learn more about his career as a visual artist and dancer.
Many years ago, I was participating at the biennial exhibition of the University of New Groton, Connecticut, and I think that was the beginning, and the gallery started seeing my work, then in the city. And then after that, they mentioned it to me, "Carlos, we want you to come to Springfield, Massachusetts." And I'm always open to expand my horizons and to show my work to any type of community. And so finally, I have the pleasure to be there, and I'm very excited.
You were born and raised in Cuba, and you moved to the United States in 1997. Your paintings reflect your Afro-Cuban background, as well as your experience of what it's been like living in the United States. How are we going to see that come across in this exhibit, and why does your heritage serve as such an inspiration for you?
My first paintings, they were practically representing like a views of Havana, I'm feeling like I was missing my city, and everything was very traditional, very strong cultural oriented in terms of my background. So I was working with a gallery in Old San Juan for the first 3 years, since my work was very, very tropical, very reflecting all the nature of Caribbean. And that was the beginning.
Throughout your life, you have had a combination of formal art studies and completed your art education at the renowned San Alejandro National Academy of Fine Arts in Havana. How and when did your interest in art begin, and did you ever imagine that this could result in a profession for you?
Well, the beginning is, I think, that you are born with it. I mean, some people, they choose to be artists, but I didn't choose to be artist. I was born an artist. I'm responding to questions about my style, because my style is the combination. When you look at it, it's not like you plan it. You don't say, I'm going to put a little bit of Picasso, a little bit of Van Gogh, make this cocktail, and this is going to be my style. That doesn't work that way. Maybe for some people, but not for me, because I did it in a very natural and unconscious way. And one day I was at the National Academy drawing a banana tree with straight lines. And I said, I had to keep a relationship between drawing and painting. This is no cubism. And then I started, because during that period of time, I was strongly influenced by silk screen. So I ended bringing the separation of layers of traditional silk screen. But then I said I had to connect the painting with the drawing. So all the separation of layers turned to responding to the drawings and was in straight lines, and all the shapes with paint was also with a straight line. And that was the beginning of what I define my style, is the combination of the experiences that you have in your life.
Although this exhibit is being celebrated in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month and embodies your Afro-Cuban heritage, how do you think your art will speak to everybody regardless of their cultural backgrounds?
And holding my background, I mean, that's the foundation. That's the foundation, and that's what let you know who you are and where you come from and where to go. I mean, if you don't have a strong foundation, you cannot go anywhere. So I have to start from that foundation, that I was born in Cuba, then I'm Caribbean, and then I'm Latino, and then I'm Afro-Cuban. And if I have to define some way, I will define myself as Afro-Cuban. I don't like to be defined. And I define myself just as a visual artist. And then I bring everything together, because I have a universe in my mind, and you are dreaming and you are flying, and you don't have limitation inside of you. So inside of me and everything, I mean, I belong to every culture. I belong to the planet. So the end of my message is like we are all connected. That's the end of everything.
After canceling last year because of the pandemic, a beloved New England fall tradition is back. The Big E Fair kicked off this morning, bringing back the food, fun, and entertainment fairgoers have enjoyed for more than a century. In a digital exclusive, revisit the sights, sounds, and tastes of the Big E and meet some of the vendors, ride operators, and others who make New England's largest fair possible.
I was raised out on the road, so when I looked at carnival lights at night, it just is something that touched my soul. So I said, this is what I want to do.
Each show is different. That's a nice thing about traveling around and seeing different places. You get to experience the culture of each different show. This is one of my favorite shows that we do, just because I love what they've done with this fair and everything about it. It's really cool.
You can find this interview, as well as extra features, digital-only content, and so much more online right now at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Observed from September 10th to 19th, Welcoming Week celebrates the communities and organizations that fully embrace new immigrants and their contributions to the social fabric of our country. For 30 years, Center for New Americans has been welcoming immigrants, migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers to Western Mass. To mark Welcoming Week, I spoke with Lori Millman, Executive Director at Center for New Americans, as well as former students Biani Salas and Mohamed Salman, to learn more about the work the organization undertakes locally and the impact they have on new immigrants.
Welcoming Week is a national initiative to celebrate organizations and communities that openly embrace newcomers and recognize that immigrants contribute tremendously to our shared communities and that are proactive in their welcoming. So organizations and communities that are intentionally inclusive.
Now, Mohamed, let's go to your story, because you were a former student and now work at the Center for New Americans. Talk to me about what brought you to the United States and what led you to this organization.
So, as you know, as most immigrants, I have different culture, language, customs, and traditions. Therefore, it's difficult to engage with this community in the first time and to be part of this community unless their people or institutions support me and guide me to the path of the success. So I found it with the Center for New Americans. As you know, everything here in the United States, you need to make an interview to accept you to a new job. And it's hard for the people, they have the English is second language, to explain about your knowledge or your skills. So when the Center for New Americans believe you, that is push you forward.
𝗵𝗵𝗻, you also are a former student, now turned employee for Center for New Americans. What led you to the United States and to this organization as well?
The system in the United States is totally different than the system that you are used to it, to navigate, and they take my hand and walk through many different processes with me. So you feel the company, you feel the support, and you feel really that you have somebody that care about you.
Now, Lori, 𝗵𝗵𝗻 and 𝗵𝗺𝗻 are just two examples of former students turned employee. You also have some former students that serve on the board of directors. Why is this important for the organization?
Everyone brings a different perspective, and we don't want to offer services without guidance from people who know more about the journey than we do. 30 years of experience gives you some credentials, but everything changes. Everything is evolving, as we all know, having lived through this crazy crisis that no one could have anticipated. And you need guidance. And 𝗵𝗵𝗻 and 𝗵𝗺𝗻 and our board members help us to stay on the right path or to choose a different path, but we wouldn't be effective without constant ongoing feedback from people who have been there and who can tell us this is helpful and this needs to be addressed.
That does it for Connecting Point for September 17th, 2021. Remember, you can always find the stories that you saw tonight, as well as exclusive features, digital-only content, and more online anytime at nepm.org/connectingpoint. And please be sure to join us again next Friday night at 6, right here on New England Public Media, for more stories of the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. I'm 𝗖𝗿𝗍 𝗵𝗺. Thanks for watching and have a great evening.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
Do you know your dad is the baddest man in the world?
He's young, he's handsome.
They know it. Muhammad Ali! Ain't nobody gonna stop me.
22 years old. And he's standing up to the whole establishment.